Asterisk, asterisk, the Galactic warlords had laughed when they first saw the rifles. Asterisk, asterisk. Their armor-clad generals, towering over the human prisoners, had picked up the primitive weapons from the battlefield with amused contempt. You fight with asterisk these asterisks. Craxus, the obsidian fang, had sneered, his voice a guttural rasp as he held a battered M24 by the barrel like a child's toy. The other warlords, Vaethra of the Blood Maw, Zorath the Unbroken, had joined in, their laughter echoing through the ruined streets of New Istanbul. To them, humanity's reliance on chemical-propelled slugs was pathetic. Their own warriors wielded plasma casters that could vaporize a man in half a breath, shielded by energy barriers no bullet could pierce. But Captain Elias Vance had watched silently from the prisoner line, his wrists bound, his face streaked with ash and blood. He said nothing as Craxus tossed a rifle into the smoldering wreckage of a tank. Said nothing as the aliens marched them toward the labor camps, where the last offenders of Earth would dig their own graves before dying in chains. Vance had been a sniper once. The 5th Marine Raiders, long-range reckon. 217 confirmed kills. Not that it mattered now. The war was over. Humanity had lost the moment the warlords' dreadnoughts darkened the sky. Also they thought. 3 nights later, Craxus died on the steps of his own command spire. The shot came from nowhere, a single crack, distant and sharp, like the splitting of stone. One moment, the warlord was barking orders to his lieutenants. The next, his skull erupted in a spray of black ichor, his body crumpling before his guard could react. Panic erupted. Energy shields flared to life, scanning for plasma fire, for missiles, for asterisk anything star. But there was nothing. No heat signature. No ion trail. Just death, slipping unseen through their defenses. Vaethra was next. She died on her command deck, halfway through a transmission demanding answers. The round punched through the reinforced viewport. Impossible, the engineers would later swear, and took her between the eyes. By then, the warlords' fleets were scrambling fighters, sweeping the ruins with thermal scans. They found nothing. Zorath lasted the longest. He sealed himself in his flagship's vault, surrounded by layers of shimmering force fields. No human weapon can reach me here, he broadcast, his voice trembling for the first time in his long, brutal reign. He was wrong. The shot came from the surface. 3 miles down, through atmosphere, through armor, through shield that had never once failed. The math was impossible. The physics, absurd. But the hole in Zorath's forehead was very, very real. Somewhere in the ruins, Elias Vance exhaled, his finger easing off the trigger. Around him, the wind howled through shattered buildings, carrying the first whispers of a legend. The warlords had laughed at human rifles. They weren't laughing anymore. Asterisk, asterisk, the warlords called it witchcraft. Their scientists called it impossible. Asterisk, asterisk. But Elias Vance called it patience. He moved like a ghost through the skeletal remains of New Istanbul, his boots silent on the broken pavement. The alien occupation forces had turned the city into a fortress. Hover sentries patrolled the skies, their thermal scanners sweeping for heat signatures, while armored legions marched below, their energy shield humming. None of it mattered. Vance had spent 3 weeks mapping their patterns, learning their blind spots, waiting for the perfect shot. His rifle wasn't standard issue anymore. The Marines had called it Asterisk Excalibur Asterisk, a custom-built .50 caliber monster with a hybrid propulsion system, part chemical explosive, part magnetic rail. The rounds were tungsten-cored, needle-thin, designed to slip through energy barriers like a scalpel through skin. The scope was his own design too, calibrated to account for atmospheric distortion, planetary curvature, even the faint gravitational pull of the moon. He didn't just see his targets. He felt them. The 4th warlord died at dawn. Korvax the Iron-Tide had been the smartest of them all. He'd hidden in a mobile command bunker, its route randomized, its walls layered with reactive armor. His advisors had assured him he was untouchable. Vance fired from a crumbling church tower, the muzzle flash hidden by the rising sun. The round traveled 2.5 miles, pierced the bunker's weakest well point, and turned Korvax's chest into a crater. By the time his guards realized what had happened, Vance was already gone, his position lost in the glare of morning. The aliens were panicking now. Their fleets bombarded entire districts on suspicion, reducing city blocks to molten glass. Their scouts dragged civilians into the streets, demanding answers. Asterisk, who is he? Where is he? Asterisk, the humans didn't know. But they whispered. They called him the Pale Death. Vance didn't care about names. He cared about angles, wind speed, the way a target's posture shifted just before they turned. He cared about the weight of the rifle in his hands, the way the world narrowed to a single, perfect moment between breaths. The fifth warlord tried to flee. Graxus, the skybreaker, boarded his personal dropship, surrounded by a phalanx of elite guards. The engines roared to life, the craft lifting off in a storm of dust and debris. Vance watched through his scope, his pulse steady. He'd accounted for this. The shot struck the ship's thruster manifold at the exact moment it crossed the thermal inversion layer. The explosion lit up the sky, a fireball reflected in 1,000 shattered windows. On the ground, a child picked up a piece of shrapnel, twisted metal, still glowing. The aliens had told them humanity's weapons were obsolete. The child grinned. Somewhere in the ruins, Elias Vance reloaded. The warlords had called it witchcraft. But witchcraft didn't need to hide. Asterisk, the galaxy held its breath as the last warlord stood alone. Asterisk. Drethkar the Undying had earned his name. Where his brothers had fallen to arrogance or panic, he adapted. His stronghold was a fortress within a fortress, a shielded citadel buried beneath a mountain, its coordinates scrubbed from all records. His guards were clones, their minds networked, their eyes seeing through each other. He had studied human history, pored over every account of warfare, searching for the flaw in Vance's approach. He found none. Vance knew the hunt was changing. The aliens had stopped moving in predictable patrols. Their dreadnoughts hung low in the sky, scanning not for armies, but for a single man. The ruins had grown quieter, the air thick with the ozone crackle of overcharged sensors. They were learning. Good. He waited 3 days without firing a shot. Let them wonder if he was dead. Let them relax just enough. Then, on the 4th night, he struck not at Drethkar, but at his myth. A relay station exploded first, the hub coordinating the clones' shared consciousness. Then the power grids feeding the mountain fortress flickered and died. By the time Drethkar's forces realized it was sabotage, not malfunction, Vance was already inside the perimeter. The clones died quickly. They were designed to fight armies, not ghosts. Vance moved through their ranks like shadow given form, his knife finding gaps in their armor, his silenced pistol turning their network minds into a liability. They fell without alarms, without cries for help. The fortress had been built to withstand orbital bombardment. Nobody had planned for a man who shouldn't be there. Drethkar was waiting when Vance finally reached the inner sanctum. The warlord stood unarmed, his massive frame draped in robes of office rather than battle armor. His citadel's last defense was a single, shimmering energy barrier between them. "You!" Drethkar rumbled, his voice echoing in the vaulted chamber. One primitive with a primitive's weapon. Vance didn't answer. He studied the barrier, the way it warped the light. "You think this changes anything?" The warlord spread his arms. "Kill me, and another will take my place. Your kind will still kneel." A flicker in the barrier's pulse. A pattern. Vance exhaled, slow and steady. Drethkar smiled. "Your rifle cannot pierce this. I have." The bullet struck him between the eyes. It shouldn't have worked. The barrier was rated to withstand plasma artillery. But Vance had spent the last hour sabotaging the power grid in precise, calculated stages. The shield flickered at exact 13-second intervals. He'd fired in the dead space between heartbeats. Drethkar collapsed, his undying eyes wide with impossible understanding. The Citadel's systems began to self-destruct around Vance, but he was already moving, slipping back into the night as the mountain erupted behind him. Above the smoke and flame, the alien fleet hesitated. For the first time in their history, they had no orders, no chain of command, no warlords. On the ground, a human woman picked up a fallen plasma rifle. Then another, and another. Vance watched from a distance, his rifle slung across his back. His work was done. The galaxy would remember this day. But first, it would learn to fear the silence between the shots. Asterisk, the silence after the last warlord's death lasted exactly 17 minutes. Asterisk. Then the sky caught fire. Orbital batteries, locked onto auto-retaliation protocols, began glassing entire sectors where human resistance had been spotted. Dropships disgorged frenzied alien legions, their discipline shattered but their weapons still lethal. It wasn't a counterattack. It was the death throes of a war machine that refused to acknowledge it had already lost. Vance watched from the skeletal remains of an observation deck, his scope tracking the chaos. He'd expected this. Power vacuums in empires like this always ended the same way, with blood and stupidity. His fingers twitched toward his rifle, then stilled. The final shot had been fired. What came next wasn't his fight, except the radio at his belt crackled to life. Pale death. The voice was young, female, trembling with something between awe and desperation. They are herding civilians into the old spaceport. We think. Static swallowed the rest, but the meaning was clear. A massacre. A final, spiteful act. Vance closed his eyes. He'd done what he came to do. The math was simple. One life traded for billions. A fair deal. But then he remembered the child with the shrapnel. The way hope felt heavier than grief. The spaceport was a killing box by design. Wide landing fields surrounded by high walls, perfect for containment. Alien troopers corralled thousands of humans toward the center, their plasma rifles humming. No orders came from orbit anymore. This was just hate. Vance took position in a control tower 2 clicks out. His fingers adjusted the scope, accounting for the ion distortion from the burning city. The lead executioner never saw the round coming. His head snapped back, and the crowd gasped as his body crumpled. Confusion rippled through the alien ranks. They toned, shields flaring, searching for the threat. Vance exhaled and fired again. Another trooper fell. Then another. They weren't warlords. They didn't have reinforced armor or energy barriers. Just flesh and fear. A roar went up from the humans as the alien formation wavered. Someone threw a rock. Then a Molotov cocktail made from scavenged fuel. The spaceport became a riot, then a rebellion, as decades of pent-up fury found its moment. Vance didn't stay to watch. He was already moving when the first alien dropship exploded, its fuel tanks pierced by precise gunfire. The message was clear enough, *run. By nightfall, the orbital bombardment ceased. The alien fleet began breaking apart, some ships fleeing, others surrendering, a few scuttling themselves in spectacular acts of pointless defiance. Vance walked through the ruins as the first human flags rose over liberated districts. No one recognized the gaunt, Dust Street man with the long rifle. That was fine. Let them believe whatever they needed to. On the edge of the city, he stopped beside a crater where a warlord's dreadnought had fallen. A familiar figure waited there, the young woman from the radio. She held out a canteen. "They are saying it's over," she said. Vance took the water. It tasted like iron and ashes. "It's never over," he said. But for now, it was enough. Somewhere above them, the stars burned cold and indifferent. The pale death shouldered his rifle and walked on.